Today at Stylized Station, our good friend Nicolas is going to teach us how he approaches creating stylized dioramas. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of the video, I wanted to share some exciting news for all of the Ghibli fans out there. Coming to the 3D coloring book this month, I'm going to be releasing a series of tutorials that show you just how easy it is to create beautiful Ghibli-style smart materials in Substance Painter that require zero hand painting skills. And you heard that right, this material here is completely PBR. Now, I'll probably be raising the price once these tutorials comes out, so if you want to grab the coloring book now for a lower price, I'll leave a link in the description. Now let's get into the video.
Hello, my name is Nicolas Barges. I'm a second year student in the animation program at the IATSUP school in Lyon, in France. So, I'm French, and just sorry for my accent. My modeling is based on the concept of challenge conf with a purple house. I am going to present you the method I followed to get the rendering of this house. First, I will show you the modeling, then the texturing, the rendering and lining, and finally some post-production work. I used Autodesk Maya for the modeling. So I start with the basic shape, the blocking, to get the main shape of the different objects. Then I start to make the different wood details on the first objects. I could have made a hyperlink with ZBrush, that's what I do most of the time, but I wanted the details to be more precise without the number of polygons being too high. The final modeling does not exceed 80,000 polygons. I tried to dig cracks in wood as well as in stone to recognize the material. For wood board, I have modeled some of them 3 or 4 different that I've duplicated in order to have something less uniform, more irregular. Then I added a maximum of details without too much exaggerated to stay in a stylized model. For the paving stone, I wanted to make them big enough and to place them like it was detached from the ground. I wanted to make 4 different ones to make it easier for the UV and texture, and I duplicate and placed 4 different paving stones to have something irregular. I decided to use ZBrush to add some details and bake on Substance Painter. Finally, to add a little bit of nature, I modeled 3 herbs to be able to duplicate them and to form some tussocks of grays. For the textures, I used the Substance Painter software. First of all, I baked the house and the hyperlink of the paving stones. I used for each UV set the bitmap mask of the ambient occlusion and curvature to be able to exaggerate a bit on shading and edges. For the wood, I used the wood painted damage by changing some parameters. For the stone, I used a marble texture that I retouched to get what I wanted. I realized that my UV technique wasn't working because I really wanted something irregular. So I retouched the UV on Maya, and thanks to edit project configuration, I changed my UV without impacting the textures that I have already made for the house. So, for the paving stones texture, I proceeded by fill layer. A fill layer of gray base over a fill layer in lighter overlay with the generator mask editor, where I increase the curvature opacity. Then I created over fill layer using the mask editor to get something that suits me. Then I added some shading between the paving stones to have something more contrasted. So I used a software brush. I employed the same method as the paving stone for dark stone with the mask editor. Same for the base and the tiles. To be able to respect the colors of the concept, I used the eyedropper tool. Then I used handpainting to be able to imitate the tasks of the concept on the base of the house. I used the aid to get a result similar to the drawings. I also applied handpainting on dirt to give a darker side to the textures. To add some details, I made some traces of roughness on the slabs. I finally added a dot reflection by hand as well as some dead leaves with aid. And finally I exported the textures in PNG 16 bits in 4K for Arnold. I took care of texturing the grace blades. I just put a green color and added some yellow details and I exported. First, I started by plugging my textures, so I imported in drag and drop directly the textures of base color, roughness and metallic. I put the base color into color, the metallic into metalness, and the roughness into roughness. For the base color I didn't change anything. For the roughness I put it in raw into color space and I ticked alpha is luminous, and for the metallic I ticked alpha is luminous. To be able to plug the normal one, I created an eye and normal map where I imported my normal and I plugged in normal camera. And finally I put the normal in RAW. So I did exactly the same thing for each UV set. For grass, I used my 4 blade of grass to create several different tussocks. For the lightning, I created 3 pseudo light. A key light that come to light the setup on the top light, the secondary light on the left, and finally a rim light that takes off the modeling of the background. I also use an outdoor sky dome to make the lightning a little bit more interesting. For the turnaround, I have selected the wall model and animate from 0 to 140 frames, from 0 to 360 degrees. To finish, a bit of post-production with Photoshop. So I used my favorite tool, which is the camera raw feature. Thanks to it I can change a lot of things like temperature, colorimetry, contrast, saturation, etc. The last step, I added a little brush stroke on a surface that I found too uniform. So here is the final rendering. I'm pretty happy with the result. For me, stylized art is being used more and more in video games and animated films. I think stylized art has a great future. I'm starting in this style, but thanks to this modeling, I'm more interested in it. I hope that you understood everything and enjoyed the video. Thanks Stylized Station for this opportunity to make a video for you.